And we are live. What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Get It Bucket podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and my guy, Kevin Lucas. What's going on, Kev?
Man, can't complain. Glad to be back talking with you guys, man. It's been a minute, but like you said, we back. Been some good action. I've been straight. Can't complain. Life is good. Hope it's the same for all you out there listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate all the love we've gotten for the show, but let's get right into it, okay? We got a lot to talk about. But first, some big news coming out of the ACC and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We found out that their head coach, Mike Brey, will be stepping down at the end of the year. Kev, how do you feel about this? And just give me your thoughts about the job in particular, because we all know Notre Dame, it's a tough gig. There's a reason why, Coach Kelly left to go to LSU because, how tough it is to get transfers in, just to get recruits in, period, and all that. And we know how prestigious the school is and all that, but it is a tough job to get, in the ACC, you got to be able to recruit if you want to play with the big dogs in there. So talk to me about Mike Brey stepping down as head coach.
Man, well, he's had a great tenure there for the most part. He's had a lot of success, a lot of wins, near 500, I believe. That's a lot of wins. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
he's been there for since 2000. That's a lot of a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I just think it's one of the things where it's run its course. You know what I'm saying? I think they
Mm-hmm.
need some new blood. And you look across the country, like it's a lot of young coaches that are young coaches getting jobs, and you got assistant coaches at successful programs getting jobs too nowadays at good schools too. So it's like I just think it's one of the things where it ran its course, man. It's time for them to go in a different direction. And I do think it's a tough job because, we talked about it, before we started, but it's hard to get in there. And they don't really get transfers like that. It's hard to get into Notre Dame. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Whoever is the next coach is going to have a lot of pressure on them to succeed because I'm pretty sure they want it out there. I know basketball is looked at pretty heavily in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's real interesting, but it kind of sucks that news also broke on social media. Like that's some news he should be able to tell his players first before it gets out to anybody. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know
Of
why it
course.
happened like that, but like I said, I think it's about time. And when you look at the roster, like all them guys are super old. JJ Stalin is literally probably the only young player. He's more than likely one and done. So
Yeah, most likely. He's a good player.
they'll be fine. But it's time to go in a different direction. He's been there as long as he could. His time is up.
Yeah, and going back to just his last 6 years, you know, in 2018, 21 and 15, 8 and 10 ACC, then 14 and 19 season, 3 and 15 in ACC play, 20 and 12, then 10 and 10 in ACC. In 2021 is 11 and 15, 7 and 11 record. Last year, pretty good, 24 and 11. They made it to this, I believe, the second round of the NCAA tournament, but like they had a gap where 4 years, you know, of no tournament play. And when in 15 and 16, Elite Eight teams, and especially in 15, they were 32 and 16, a very good season. But this year, off to a tough start, 9 and 10, 1 and 7 in ACC play. It's just been tough. And I think, like you said, I think it's just run its course. Um, it's just time. It's time for a change. Like I said, he's been there for what, 20 plus years.
Yep.
And it's probably time. Only, like I said, only one ACC win, and that was a 1 point win versus Georgia Tech. It's just and Georgia Tech's been we can talk
Abysmal.
abysmal, and all that. And but it's a tough job. And I want to ask you, obviously, you hear Notre Dame and you're like, okay, it's a prestigious school and all that, but how good is that job really? And we had talked about this with Texas, right? On the last show with Chris Beard getting let go, and how big of a job, and maybe the name Texas is bigger than the actual of the actual job itself. And like we hear Texas, and the football has really reason why we hear, why we think so highly of Texas and all that. But the basketball side, it may be not as big, and it probably applies the same thing to Notre Dame. Um, how good of a job is this job, Kev?
I'll be honest, I don't even know if it's a middle tier job in the ACC right now. Like,
All right, I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna I just thought about this. I'm gonna read off teams in the ACC, and I just want to name, and you tell me if they're better, if this school is a better job,
let's
and
do it.
not regardless of who's on the team coach right now. So let's. I'm gonna read off the teams who are on the top right now. Let's just start from the top of who's the best teams right now. Let's go with Clemson. Is Notre Dame a better job than Clemson?
Whew. Um, I think
Both
I
schools
think
are available. You have to take the job. Which scholar are you taking?
me personally, I'd probably take Clemson,
I think I
but
take Clemson. I think I
but I
take a
think Notre
Clemson
Dame
job
is a
too.
better job though. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so all right. So let's say that we'll take Notre Dame. All right, so that's one school in the ACC.
You know,
Virginia.
taking Virginia.
So Virginia. Miami.
Definitely taking Miami.
Miami. So that's two schools we got. Pittsburgh.
Yes, it's too much
Pitts.
talent in that state.
We got Pittsburgh. We got Wake.
Yes,
So four jobs.
taking Wake Forest over Virginia.
NC State.
Definitely,
Definitely five schools.
definitely.
UNC. Yeah. I was gonna
Next.
laugh. Yeah. Syracuse.
mm, I don't know. I'll probably take. I ain't gonna lie. I'll probably take Notre Dame over Syracuse. As
So
crazy as that
we
probably
got
sounds.
two. So we got two schools. Okay. Duke. Obviously, you were taking Duke job.
No,
Florida State.
I'm taking Florida State. Tallahassee's a
Florida
great
State.
city from what I heard.
Tallahassee. Yep. Any Florida school. Like Boston College.
Taking Notre Dame.
Yeah, I take Notre Dame. So that's three. That's three schools. So that we take over that. So the three schools. So we picked the Clemson, BC, and what was the other school that we would take over? Wait, no. So
Yeah.
we got two. We got two so far. BC and Clemson schools we wouldn't take over Notre Dame. All right, Virginia Tech.
Taking Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech job. Georgia Tech.
Taking Georgia Tech.
I feel like Georgia Tech is such a hidden like monster.
It's in Atlanta one
It's
and
in
two.
Atlanta. Like
It's so
just
many.
historically, like they've been able to get some really good guys.
Yes.
It's to me, it's sometimes puzzling how they just can't get over that. But and
So much
Louisville.
talent in Georgia right now.
Yeah, there's so much Georgia. They could do a lot. They can do a lot there. And Louisville.
Easily taking Louisville.
It's Louis, and it's crazy.
As bad as Louisville's
as-
been, I'm still taking them.
100% because
I'm
that
still taking them.
that could get fixed so easily. That can get fixed so because it's Louisville. They recruit there. They just might have the wrong foundation there. But so jobs that we would take. So 2 to 3 jobs, right? We said Clemson. We would take over. BC. So yeah, I think that's it, right? 2 jobs, 2-3 jobs.
Yep.
So in that range. So like so we're saying it's a bottom 3 to 4 job in the ACC. You know, so like where do they start? Where do they start? Like when we talked about Texas, we were talking about Bruce Pearl and all these names. When we get to the Notre Dame job, we're not going to be talking about that. So is there anyone? What type of coach? First, what type of coach should they be trying to attract for this job? Is it a proven commodity? Is it a top young assistant that they feel like can grab, these recruits, or, a lower tier, maybe juke? I don't know. What type of coach should they look at? And do you have anyone in mind for the Notre Dame job?
Yes, I would say probably go with both of your first two options, where you should go try and get a young coach that you can build upon for 20 plus years, kind of like Mike Brey, because that's what they need. You need someone that wants to be at Notre Dame. Like,
Yeah.
it's no question about it. You can't want someone that's just halfway in. You can't do it at that school. So, me personally, I think the only option I would look at right now is probably Michael Shrewsbury at Penn State, man. I think he's done a hell of a job. He's only been there for a couple. I want to say this is his second year right now, and he's made big progress just over this one season. I think their play style is so attractive to players across the country, and I know he has Indiana ties and Indiana roots. So I mean, I can see it personally, but outside of that, I wouldn't even be able to tell you guys. But that if I was them, I would definitely look at Michael Shrewsbury.
Okay, so I just pulled up an article about some potential coaches that they could be looking at, and two names in particular that are really intriguing. Obviously, Chris Quinn, he's the Miami Heat assistant, and obviously
Yeah,
he played there.
yeah,
And they're saying, I mean, that could be very intriguing. Obviously, a former player and all that, and what better person to help recruit than someone who played there and had did some really good things there. Like he
that's a
was a
great
really good
option.
player, so that's someone potentially. He's been coaching in the league for a minute though, so
Yep,
it depends. I don't know if what his aspirations are. He's been in there for a while, so maybe, and I've heard his name in the head coaching ring for a little bit. Um, not 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 a lot, but you hear his name sometimes, as maybe someone that can interview, but that could potentially be someone that could be a nice hire. And the other name is Dustin May, the head coach of FAU. FAU has
ooh,
one loss this year. They're first, I think it's the first time they've ever been ranked in the AP poll. One loss this year, having a tremendous season. Maybe that's someone that you look at too. So like, because FAU feels like they're having a great season, and they've done some special things, but Notre Dame's probably a better job. So
yeah.
those are some interesting names that
Even though I'd rather be in Boca Raton than South Bend, Indiana, I'm not gonna lie.
of course, it's hard to pass on, but
Yeah,
if we're talking about your paper,
yeah,
and be able to maybe get some better recruits and
for
all
sure.
that. Sometimes you gotta be like, all right, babe, I know we chilling on the beach, daily, but we got to get some coats.
Oh man,
Because we talking seven figures now, baby. We could come here. We could come here on the off season. We'll come recruit. When I recruit, we come down here. We recruit. But and I think that's such a. I'm glad you brought that up. That's such an underrated fact. Like we just like to just plug in coaches and players too. We do this a lot, but we forget like, all right, like if you're from Florida, it's hard to be like, yo, I'm gonna take everything I've been used to living and all that, and we're gonna move to freaking Indiana, the middle of nowhere. Like that's that's tough too, but money talks. Money talks, and if he's someone they like, and same thing for Chris. I mean, Chris Quinn's probably made a nice little amount of change. He played in the league for a little bit and all that. He wasn't obviously like a high end player, but he
yeah,
made some money and he's been an assistant for a while. Um, and he's been in Miami system too. Like he's Spolstra is one of the best coaches in the league, maybe the best. So he's learned a lot. So he can bring that over. So I mean, that's to me is if I'm Notre Dame, I'm trying to lure Chris Quinn there. That to me,
yeah. I like
that would
that.
be a big time hire. That seems like I'm glad I looked up that article because that seems like um another guy that could they say Chris Holtman from Ohio State.
Oh man, Notre
And
Dame fans, stay away from that. I'm telling y'all, that's not the one y'all want, man. Kentucky,
They
they were
they had
pushing
him as
Chris
the number
Quinn.
one. I'll read you some of their ops. They had Chris Holtman first, Chris Quinn second, Mika Shrewsbury, Penn State head coach third, Dusty May fourth, and then Greg McDermott fifth, and then Martin Inglesbury from Delaware sixth. Um, Greg McDermott. You know what? I know we weren't gonna talk about Creighton, but I gotta have to talk about Creighton because they're pissing me off. This,
Man,
it wasn't, and wasn't gonna get into it, but we're gonna get into it. Let's talk about Creighton, man. I had them as a Final Four team. It just seems they're very frustrating to figure out. Just this Creighton team, very frustrating because how many times have we said that starting five is a Final Four starting five and all that, and they have all the pieces, a great head coach, and you know what do you think has been the missing ingredient for this Creighton team? Because if the with I didn't get to read the bracketology. I think they had a bracketology thing that just came out. I didn't get to read it, but I'm sure they may be maybe the last four out as of right now. I would
yeah.
assume. So how do they go from a potential Final Four team to a bubble team?
I think it was multiple things. I'm not gonna lie. I'll say the first thing I think was I don't think Greg McDermott specifically was ready for that spotlight. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
being honest with you guys, like, and I'm not by any means saying that Greg McDermott is a bad coach. 'Cause I actually do think he's one of the best X's and O's coaches in the country. But Creighton has never been looked at as highly as they were this past season, and I was one of the biggest people leading that train too. Like, I
Oh
truly
yeah, I
believe
was
in
on that.
Creighton.
I was a lead
Like,
conductor.
like exactly. So it's like the talent is there. They were struggling to get consistent bench production, like from Francisco Farabello, Frederick King, and a couple other guys. But they honestly don't have that much shooting, and I hate to say that their
Oh,
3-point production is not what it needs to be by any means for that team. And like with Arthur Kaluma, with Trey Alexander, with Ryan, or excuse me, yeah, Ryan Nemhard,
Nemhard,
and
yeah.
old boy coming over from South Dakota State, the
Shireman, yeah.
lefty
Bear
Baylor
Shireman.
Shireman. They should have some shooting. They should be able to knock down
They
shots.
really
Honestly,
should.
Shireman's been the only one to consistently knock down shots this past all season, so or
Yeah.
this past season. So it's like I don't know what's going on, but they have a chance to ride it. Even though the Big East, I'm not gonna lie, is probably only gonna put maybe 14 into the tournament this year because the Big East is not that good. Because Villanova's down, UConn
Yeah.
is taking a crash right now, um, and it's a couple other ones. But I don't know, man. I'm just looking at them like they just can't shoot the rock, bro. They can defend. Ryan Colgren has probably been their most important player, but
Yeah.
ever since they took that loss,
When he's out, they definitely suffer.
ever since they took that loss on their home floor to Nebraska, their one and only, I guess you can call quote unquote in-state rival.
Mm-hmm.
It went downhill from there. Nebraska's not terrible, but they shouldn't lose on their home court that game. And again, rivalry games are always different. You can't really put any stock in either team because it can go either way because it's a
Mm-hmm.
rivalry. But I don't know. They shouldn't have lost that game. But ever since then, it's just been
Nah, you
bad.
can't lose. You can't lose to Nebraska. I'm sorry. You can't lose to
Not Fred
Nebraska.
Hoiberg, man.
Nah. Yeah, you can't lose.
Not Fred
Especially
Hoiberg.
Fred Hoiberg, man.
Come on.
We need to get him up out of here. Like you can't lose to Hoiberg. But it's just like you said, the shooting, man. It's very inconsistent. I feel like their guard play has been like I think what bought a lot of people was Nemhard and
Kaluma.
Alexander, yeah, and I'm Kaluma too. Like, but like
Yeah.
the backcourt, like they had,
Yeah.
like we saw that in the Maui, like okay, especially Nemhard. Nemhard was playing, and I was like, oh, they got Nemhard ball, oh, okay, because you don't have to worry about Kaluma with his outside perimeter. Everyone else is doing their thing and all that because you got Bayer Shireman and all that. But it just seems like that backcourt's been very inconsistent. They had that long losing streak, but they lose like 6, 7 in a row. I mean, close
Yep.
games, but they lost them all. You know, but it just seems like they won 2 in a row, and I think it was Providence and Butler, right? They beat Stu's team, but they beat down Stu's team, and all that. But it's frustrating, because this team, because it wouldn't shock me if this team they'd be like a 10th seed and they make a run
At
and
all.
they get to the Final Four and be like, yo, what? Why did they have to make it so hard on themselves where they should be an easy 30-win team? Easy 30-win team, but injuries, inconsistencies. Can they bounce back? Do you think they'll figure it out?
I do think they will, and that's another thing too. I think one of the biggest issues with the team this year was I'll be honest, I think Trey Alexander and Arthur Kaluma were kind of playing for themselves for like their NBA stock.
Especially Kaluma. I feel like Kaluma a lot because Kaluma was someone that people coming in are like, okay, his stock could really rise up. And early on, it looked like, okay, maybe this dude is a top 20, maybe a lottery guy. And then he had some ugly shooting performances and all that. And and one of his swing things is the shooting. If you get the shooting down, we got someone that could be a lottery pick, but haven't really seen that.
And the thing is, it's like Creighton is known for their ball movement and getting their shooters open.
Mm-hmm.
And Arthur Kaluma, like you said, he's an ISO heavy player,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
loves to get to his heads. He goes through the legs. He likes to do all that. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's a player, but that's not Creighton's play style by any means. So it's like
Yeah.
they gotta figure it out, man. I think they will, but it's not. I don't even think it's that difficult of a fix. Like they just gotta tighten up, start playing like how they were last year, towards the end of last year when they got to the NCAA tournament and they went to the Big East tournament and lost in the Big East championship game, and just play together, play for one another, play like a team, and they should be straight. Like it's not
Yeah.
rocket science.
And that's why I liked, because I was at that game. I was at the Big East championship game last year when they played Nova, lost to Nova, and I remember
Yep.
seeing this team, and I was actually in the Creighton crowd in the Creighton section, and I was like, "Yo, should I be putting money on this team next year?" They're like, "Yup, do it," and everyone was like, and I talked to a lot. I even talked to someone else, like a reporter. I'm like, "This team's gonna be good next year." They're like, "Yup," and that's why we heard a lot of hype about them. So, but I think they could fix it. I mean, the Big East is not as good as we thought. Like I said, Nova's down. UConn is. They look like
Struggling.
they struggling big time. Like what's I mean, I wasn't expected to talk UConn, but let's we could I guess we can get into them. What's going on? What's going on? I mean, we talked about a little bit on last week, but we were like, okay, maybe it's just a little blip. But now it seems like okay, and obviously coach wasn't there last game. I don't know exactly why he wasn't there, but he wasn't able to attend the game, but they lost. So, UConn. Well, what's going on?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I was saying on the last episode that Tristan Newton needs the ball in his hands a little bit more, but he's been struggling, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not gonna put the blame entirely on him because he is a transfer, and like it's not supposed to just automatically click for transfers. And yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
midway through the season, but still, like it takes time. Look at, for instance, Tyson Walker at Michigan State right now. Like last year he was okay, but this year he's going crazy. But
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
talk about my team later. But like they have the pieces. Jordan Hawkins is really good. Adama Sanogo,
Phew,
really
it's
good.
really
Donovan
good.
Clingan, really good. Alex Caravan, really good. Hassan Diarra, really good. But at the same time, it's like this is kind of what I expect from Danny Hurley teams. As much as I hate to say this,
I
like,
think it comes down to the coaching, man.
and he's
Like it
never
really
like
is.
just like McDermott, like he's never had a spotlight on him like this.
Mm-hmm.
UConn's literally been one of the best teams early on in the season. They played some really good games. You know what I'm saying? They beat some really good teams for a little bit. And they get in the Big East play. And Big East play always tells you a lot. And like at
Yep.
first, like I knew
100%.
losing at Xavier and losing at Providence, those aren't bad losses. But when you're losing a home game to St. John's, with all due respect to Mike Anderson's program, that
Yeah,
just
you
can't
can't lose
happen.
that game.
So
Nah.
they gotta get it together too, like Creighton. But I just think it's a whole bunch of guys that aren't really connecting with their coach right now. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. It just and they have so much talent, but like you said, once you get to conference play, we that's when we see who the real and maybe we maybe bought the Kool-Aid a little bit too much with UConn earlier, but we should have
Definitely.
known better because we've said this. Like once we get to conference play, this is where we're going to see how good teams really are. Because like you said, a lot of fluff early on,
It's just
lot of
like Maryland.
yeah, yeah. Like, we're gonna see a lot of fluff early on, teams beating up on DeVry State University and all these random ass schools, and like they fluff up the schedule, which is good. Get easy wins before you get into big boy play. But it feels like we maybe we bought the cool, but even if we did, it's for good. It's not just because they were winning, but it's just like they got NBA players. Jordan Hawkins is a potential top 20 pick, maybe. Like I have him top 20, top 25. Sonogo is someone that could be a draft pick, you know, maybe a second round pick and all that. Like they got guys,
Guys,
they got hoopers. So it just and to me, when you got a hoop and Alex Caravan too is another good one. Like I said, Tristan Newton, like, but it's like Andre Jackson, like, but it's like that to me is coaching because that means you can't figure out how to balance these talents, especially if you're a coach who's been around too and you can't figure it out. And we had talked about him, Coach Hurley. We talked about Hurley and maybe this being like a this is a big year for him. He got to figure things out. And
uh-huh.
obviously they came off the gate, playing really good, but and we saw that game against who they play against Xavier, where he got the tech and all that, and you know, uh,
Costly.
yeah, costly tech and all that, and they talk about players doing that and being smart. Coach, you should definitely be smart. You can't you wouldn't take that from a player, but obviously, but it, it's I just wonder with her because just looking at his record since he got to UConn, 16 and 17 his first year. He came over from Rhode Island. Because I remember him. He was at Wagner, and I live in Staten Island, and Wagner's right here in Staten Island, so not too far, literally minutes away. So that's when I heard about him and all that, and he brought Wagner to respectability, which is pretty impressive. Like to get and got some really solid kids to come here. But then went to did his thing in Rhode Island and all that solid. But then he's been kind of at UConn. And we said he needs a big year, or else we got to be like, hey, we on the chopping block. So 16 and 17 his first year, 19 and 12, no tournament. Gets to the tournament 15 and 8. And I think that was the COVID year, right?
Yeah.
23 and 10 last year, and they lose in the first round. And then so far 15 to 5, but 4 and 5 in Big East play. Like if things really fall off, we might be having an episode talking about is UConn a top job, because this is unexcusable. But it comes down to coaching, man. We want to blame players and all the team players are selfish. Sometimes you're like, hey, coach doesn't know how to handle all this talent. It's that simple. He don't know how to handle talent. There's
Look
very
at
few coaches
Illinois.
down. Look at Illinois. And a lot of these college coaches, and people don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about some of these coaches are stuck in their ways. And in college, it really irks me. It really irks me because we want to, and because a coach can obviously recruit and all that and do all this stuff, but he can hurt a kid too. And we want to complain about the transfer portal and these kids want to leave and all that, but some of these coaches just don't know how to adapt to the talent. To me, a good coach knows how to adapt to his talent. If you got a bunch of kids that like to run and gun and all that, well, guess what? We gotta run. We gotta run with them. We gotta run. I gotta know how to use that talent. Some of these coaches are just gonna be stuck on them. We're gonna play this way. We're gonna play that way. And it's like, come on now. You got to be able to adapt to this new age. Some of these coaches are just so stuck in their ways. And we know Hurley. He's from his pops is a legend, legendary high school coach in Jersey and all that. And they play that that type of style of basketball. But sometimes that shit don't work. And these coaches just don't know how to. College coaches probably are the worst at adapting. College basketball coaches are the worst at adapting. I see Nick Saban in football. Old school as old school be like, okay, yeah, we got to be able to throw this thing. Got to get me some wide receivers and quarterback.
Eventually,
You got to play flashy. Eventually, even Coach, like we mentioned, Coach K, old school man. He from Army and all that. Pat Knight. I mean, not Pat Knight, Bob Knight.
yep.
Tree and all that noise and all that. And he even said, "Oh, I got to go one and done. Got to do that if I want to be able to adapt." There's not a lot of coaches. They adapt to their talent. You got Zion Williamson. You got all these players like Coach Izzo. You got a coach who knows how to adapt to his players. And there's a reason why Coach Izzo is where he's at and why he's so respected and kids want to go there. Why kids want to go play with Coach K and all that. And some coaches, they're like they can't adapt. Even like Roy Williams, even for like you would think go to championship, he didn't adapt later on in his career. He just stuck in it, and there's a reason why he left and all that. Like, some of these coaches just don't adapt, and it irks me. It just bothers me so much.
No, I'll never get it.
I just I don't get it. And but Mr. Hurley, if he don't figure it out, he might be on the chop block because it's not like he was doing stuff there. So got to figure it out. UConn, a team that we thought maybe they were just a little bit of a little tough streak, but definitely not playing good. But let's talk about a conference that's playing really good basketball right now, and that's the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably the best, I think the best conference in the country. Just essentially top to down, just overall, just really playing, so deep. Probably 7 teams, probably in that hunt to make 67 teams, getting in and all that. For you, who's been the most who's your most surprising team so far in the Big 12?
Definitely Iowa State. It's not even a. It's not even a close. Not even a close second. Like I have faith in Jerome Tang to be good at Kansas State, but not like this. But
Mm-hmm.
what Iowa State is doing, man, like you got to give a lot of credit to TJ Osselberger for real. Like
Mm-hmm.
losing Tyrese Hunter, who was a hell of a player for him last year, like
Yep.
you would have thought that they would. I personally thought they were going to fall off a cliff because I didn't think they would have a point guard. But Caleb Grill is a knockdown shooter. I think Oshuni coming over from St. Bonaventure, that was a dude I wanted at Michigan State because I knew he was such a great center. Like he's played in a lot of college basketball games. And he's a hell of a rim protector, and he does everything, almost everything offensively too. And he's a good playmaker too. He's like 7 feet. He's been dominant. Like they have good players, man. Gabe Kalsher, another one. Like came over from Minnesota a couple years ago. Like watching him in the Big Ten, I did not think he was going to be that good because he struggled a lot at Minnesota playing under Richard Pitino, but he's gone and played and transferred over to the Big 12, and he's been a much different player, more experience.
Shooting the three ball well too, because he was a poor 3-point shooter. But that could be that coaching, man. Coaching
Coaching
could be
matters.
coaching.
Coaching matters. And so I love everything about the Cyclones, man. Like you got to give a lot of credit to TJ Osborne. He's done the real groundwork because people don't really talk about them like that. And they've been a consistently good basketball program for a long time now. You know what I'm saying? Going back to the Fred Hoiberg days with, all them guys that they had back then, Georges Niang, alongside others. Like, you already know,
Yeah.
of course, like they have players. So
Yeah.
they doing their thing, man. I got to give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, and 2 years. I mean, last year, what, Sweet 16 last year.
Oh,
And this year, probably on their way to a NCAA berth. And they had a tough loss versus Kansas, right? They lost to Kansas, right, recently
I
by a
believe
couple
so.
by a bucket or something. Like, so they showed they could play. Kansas, who's the big dog in the Big 12, but they have been.
Yeah, I trust in what Iowa State's doing, man. They know what they're doing. They've had plenty of great success. Like Ossenberg is gonna be fine, man.
I X'd myself out of the stream, y'all. My bad, my fault with that. I meant
No,
to
you good.
on a tab I had open, but yeah, Iowa State has been impressive for one loss so far, and that was just to a Kansas team. So like a 2-point loss to Kansas. So you take that, it could easily be 6-0 in the conference. But um, let- let's talk TCU quick. TCU's a team that I liked a lot. I had them in the Final Four. Um, they had some so a lot of close games early on, and a little I think that 2-3 and 3-3 so far in Big 12 play. Some close losses. They lost to West Virginia recently.
Yeah.
How are we looking at TCU? Because obviously we know they have Miles and Mike Miles is just that dude, and possibly an All American. I think he was even preseason All American. But overall, how are we feeling about TCU right now? Are we buying them? Are we selling them? Do we worry about the offense? Because the offense seems like it can really sputter at times if Mike Miles isn't doing his thing. They rank. 3-point shooting is not good. Defensively they're very solid, very good,
Yep.
solid. But offensively, it seems like sometimes it's tough for them to get the shot, and that's why they lost to West Virginia, which they probably should have won. I mean, West Virginia is probably one of the bottom two teams in the Big 12, but they struggled. So, how are we looking at TCU? Especially if Mike Miles isn't getting his shots. They look sometimes very pedestrian, but I still think they're solid. A solid team. But give me your thoughts on TCU right now.
I'm buying because as we're going to continue to say, the Big 12 is the best basketball conference in the country, and I don't think it's any debating that for real, for being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at them, like as you said, offensively they are challenged because they don't have the shooting. They're like Creighton; they just can't
They
shoot like
can't.
that.
You're
And
not gonna.
but come March time, they have the two perfect ingredients to have success: is elite guard play between Mike Miles and Damian Ball, on
Mm-hmm.
top of defense, and they play really good defense and solid defense too. Eddie Lampkin does a great job of moving his feet. Mike Miles, same thing. Charles O'Bannon, like Micah Peavy's a hell of a defender too. Emmanuel
Mm-hmm.
Miller, like they have really good individual defenders and a solid team defense too. So I think if they can just keep their heads above water a little bit throughout conference play, I think they're going to be super dangerous come March Madness time.
Yep, I think so too. Like I said, the shooting worries me a little bit because sometimes, if that goes cold once we get to tournament play, you can get bounced, very early and all
Yep.
that. So, but they do have Mike Miles and Lampkin and all that. So, they got guys who can get a bucket. So, you know, I'm still rolling with them. I'm still rolling with TCU and all that. Um, you know, they still got a really good team, and I think they'll bounce back very well. But any other thoughts on the Big 12? Any other teams that we should be looking out for? Just give me any of the final thoughts on the Big 12.
Kansas, man, we can never discredit Kansas. This has been Kansas's league for a large majority of the past
Long
2 decades, probably longer than that. Like, if we're being honest, like they've been doing it, and I look at them like I really think they're a sleeper team to win it all this year. Like they lost that game at Kansas State, which is a great team too, by the way. Like Kansas State's really good too, but Jalen Wilson's been hooping. DeJuan Harris is a hell of a point guard. KJ Adams has solidified his role, and he's been dominant in it in the way that they're using him.
time.
Kevin McCullough's going to give you solid minutes. Grady
Grady
Dick
Dick,
is a
yeah.
real hooper, going to be a first
he's
round pick.
he's so much
Like,
fun to watch. Like if you just look at his advanced stats, it's all like positive. It's all in the green. Like he's someone that NBA draft people like you may think they overrate him, but then you look at like if you look at the stats and all that, and like and then you watch the
killing.
game, it's like okay, it matches. Sometimes the stats and the play doesn't match, but for him, everything matches, and like he's someone he's a hooper. He's definitely a hooper.
And they don't have crazy depth like that, but if they can just get good minutes out of like Yesufu, they should be straight. Like just
Mm-hmm.
as a solid little 6 man. So I like this Kansas team. I don't say that a lot because I'm not a big fan of Bill Self personally. But I can admit he is a hell of a coach, so you can never discount him. But like I
Yeah,
said, Kansas State too, man. Jerome Tang's been doing his thing. Like Marquise Noel, Naquan Tomlin's a hooper. As we already mentioned, Keontae Johnson, like
Big 12 player of the year.
real players, man. So that's another team too. Both them teams in the state of Kansas, man, they've been hooping.
Kansas basketball, like Kansas as a state, they have both their main teams playing really good basketball, which is really
Yep,
impressive, and especially Kansas State. What Jerome Tang's doing there,
it's crazy.
and we had talked about this, last show, and Keontae Johnson and all that, like how, like it's good to first of all, it's just good to see him healthy, and just playing basketball. Who cares about the numbers? But then you're like, let me look at the numbers, and you're like, oh, that's Big 12 Player of the Year type of numbers. Okay, you hooping
Mhm.
like, that, and so that's good to see and all that. So both teams doing well. Big 12 right now, best conference in the country right now, no doubt. But this show is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the number one ticket site. Go to SeatGeek.com and use promo code Off the Ball Network, all caps, to get $20 off your first purchase. That is SeatGeek.com, your number one place for all your ticket needs. $20 off first purchase, promo code Off the Ball Network. Go on there and help out the network and the show, with that. So I wanted to get into a little bit of recruiting talk. Bronny James has narrowed down his 3 schools to USC, Oregon, and the Ohio State. And we kind of had a feeling, especially with Oregon and Ohio State, those are definitely going to be in this too. They used to be like, Duke would be in there simply because the relationship with LeBron and Duke and Coach K and all that. But um, Bronny's probably not at that level, no disrespect, but he's still a good player and all that. But USC, Oregon, Ohio State are his top three. Bronny's probably top 50 to 60 player, in the country in the upcoming class,
2023.
2023 class. I think someone that's obviously he's always going to get over, saturated because of what's his name, and his dad his dad plays the NBA. He does a little, scores a couple buckets. He's going after some record. I think it's the most points of all time, something like that. Nothing crazy, but his dad is an NBA player. You know that, but I think what I before we get into like where should he go and all that, I think it's very unfair how people like criticize his game because he's obviously not his dad. Like, and people be like, well, he's never going to be his dad. Well, is anyone going to be his dad? Like, even the best player, and even Kevin Durant's not going to be LeBron James. And Kevin Durant is 6'11", maybe the greatest scorer of all time. Like, I always felt bad that he had to deal with those, simply because he plays the same sport and his name is James, last name's James, and he even had to like not call himself LeBron no more because like just the pressure and all that and all that. So like, I give him credit for handling everything pretty smooth. Like, hey, like, not talking to the media, not getting caught up. There's a couple little things, Snapchat and all that crap we saw, but nothing crazy and all that. But that's a lot of pressure for a kid, especially when your dad is freaking LeBron James. Like, and I give him credit for handling all this very well for a kid that's been well off. I mean, he's had everything. His dad is arguably one of the greatest players to ever play this game, and you know, but he's also had to learn from his dad, who in a like I grew up with LeBron James, era, in high school, I was a freshman when LeBron was a senior, I believe. Like and hearing about and that's without social media and all that. Let's just imagine LeBron James now. Like, so you got to give him credit. He learned a lot and he's been humble. So just tell me about like the maturity of like Bronny and what you've seen from him, and how he's able to adapt with, the crazy amount of pressure he's had to endure.
With the criticism part, I think it goes to a larger point, not even just about Bronny, but it's just like enjoy players for what they are currently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always just being so hypocritical and critical of them for what they can be or what you think they can be. You know what I'm saying? Just enjoy them for where they're at right now. If it's high school, if it's college,
Yes.
if it's
Yes.
overseas, if it's the NBA, enjoy players for what they are, man, and stop just hating because of what you think they can be or can't be. And with that being said, like Bronny is a really good player, and I can't wait to see his game translate to the next level because I do think he's going to be a good Division I basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
This recruitment is interesting. I know we'll talk about that in a second, but like you said, like everything that's coming his way, like social media, you know what I'm saying, being constantly outside. Like I always say, Sierra Canyon is a TMZ of high school basketball. Like that's what they are.
Sure.
Literally. You got all different types of celebs coming to your games like that. I'm pretty sure like he's used to it. I'm pretty sure he's been around some celebrities before, but it's just like at the same time, he's at Sierra Canyon. He's playing on a big stage with good
Mm-hmm.
players, and
On ESPN, almost all the big games. He's on ESPN. He's on
I give him a
TV.
lot of credit, man, because he's not a selfish player by any means. Like
Mm-hmm.
super, super unselfish. Knows how to play within the offense. Doesn't really force shots. You don't see him trying to be selfish whatsoever. So
No,
like
plays a
with
very
Bronny,
unselfish brand of basketball.
just plays the right way. You got to give a lot
Mm-hmm.
of credit to Brown for that too, because of course, he's played basketball the right way for his entire life, pretty much. And
Mm-hmm.
Bronny's, of course, not doing it to that extent, but he's doing it how I think people should learn how to play basketball. How you should raise your kids how to play basketball. You should
Mm-hmm.
teach them like that. And with his recruitment, I'm gonna just be honest. I think he ends up at Oregon personally. I don't know what it is, but I don't trust USC because Andy Enfield, he gets talent. Good, solid coach. I'm not gonna say good coach, solid coach. He gets talent, but he doesn't know how to maximize it outside
Mm-hmm.
the year that he had the Mobley brothers. Oregon has a good recruiting class coming in next year with Mookie Cook, Kwame Evans, Jackson Shellstead is from
Kwame Evans
Westland.
is a baller. Kwame Evans
Yeah,
is a baller.
yep. Jackson Shellstead is from Westland, same place as Peyton Pritchard. Like Oregon's gonna have a good recruiting class. I think Bronny should go to a situation where he doesn't have to be the star. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
to depend on him to get 17 points per game or 14 points per game. He can just go into a situation where he could play his exact style of brand of basketball that he's playing right now, and get guys involved, take shots, take the right shots, take quality shots, don't force shots, play within the offense, trust your coach. And Dana almost has some struggling years these past 2 years, especially this year.
That's what I'm
Most of
saying. Maybe, what if there's, potential? I'm not saying it could happen. Yeah, I haven't heard anything, but you never know. If Oregon's kind of been up and down this season.
and it's largely part due to injury. They've been hurt at the guard spot, especially a lot
Yeah.
these past couple years, and some bigs. But with them, I just think it offers the best opportunity for Bronny because when I look at Ohio State, Chris Holtman, they're struggling right now, and they have a lot of talent between Zedkey, Bryce
Right.
Sensabaugh,
Like,
Bruce Thornton,
yeah.
Isaac Likely, Sean McNeil, good talent, and they're
Mm-hmm.
struggling right now in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, of course, is a dogfight every night, but Chris Holtman, that's just not acceptable at a place like Ohio State, in my opinion. I don't think he's a bad coach by any means, but they have another recruiting class coming in with Devin Royal, who's a hell of a player. I wanted him to go to Michigan State badly. Scotty Middleton, another really good player. And they have a couple other guys in that class. And with the guys that I potentially see coming back next year, I just don't think that's a great situation for Bronny personally. So I just think Oregon's the best spot in my opinion. I do ultimately think he'll end up going to Eugene and playing for Dana Altman.
Yeah, and then there could be some. Chris Holtman could be someone that could be looking for a job potentially. But I think Oregon's going to be the school too. You hearing Ohio State because I think it's because LeBron's a big Ohio State fan. Obviously, they're from the state. He's from Ohio, and it's just natural to put two and two together. But Oregon also has Nike, and who represents Nike? LeBron James, and who has a big stake in Nike? LeBron James, and that would be a big get for Oregon to get him and all that, and just let him develop and all that. I think there might be a lot of pressure if he goes to Ohio State, simply because LeBron's from over there, and that he's a big fan of them. There could be a lot of pressure, and this kid's already had to deal with a lot of pressure. We just want to see him ball. There's gonna be pressure for him to be a one and done and all that. I don't think he's that type of prospect personally, and I think that there's people that think LeBron wants to stay around until Bronny is eligible for the draft and all that. But we don't even know if Bronny will even get to that point. Um, but I don't think that should be what we're thinking about. I think a lot of people are
Agreed.
already thinking about oh, he's gonna be one and done and all. It's like, why don't we just let him play ball? Let him be if he's a 3-year player, he's a 4-year player, 5-year player, whatever. Let him, if that's what he is, that's what he is. We have to just accept that.
And
Like,
there's nothing wrong with that either.
ain't
But
nothing wrong with that. I think I just we expect, because LeBron has this shelf life of maybe what, 3 years, maybe two. I don't know, whatever amount of years left. I know he wants to play. I don't know if he. I know he had the interview. He said that he wants to play with him, sort of, on the court. I don't know if he meant be on the same team, or just he wants that moment on the court, whether he's on a different team and all that, just to say that I was on the same court as my son. I don't think that's ever happened in the NBA. I could be wrong. I don't think that's ever happened in NBA history where a dad and a son have played. I could be wrong, but I know it happened in baseball. I know the Griffey and his pops played together, and that's
legendary.
something that's legendary, right? And I think that's a moment LeBron would love, just even if it's for a minute. One that's, you could say, yo, I played, and that's also another appreciation of LeBron, like the fact that he even get to that point where he's playing 20 plus years and he's playing with a son. That's just a cool moment, and something like we always know about the Griffeys playing together. That's a moment, they you live forever. And I think that he wants that. I don't think it meant like play on the same team. So if Bronny goes to the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't think LeBron's going to go to Milwaukee and all that. But we also don't know if Bronny's that is a pro prospect. What if he is a five? What if he's there 5 years at Oregon? He redshirts and plays 5 years. I don't think LeBron's going to play 5 more years. He could. I mean, at this rate, he's averaging 30, but realistically, I think that's not possible. But I think we just need to let him develop, let him play. Not stop rushing him to the pros. Oh, he's going to play for Cleveland. Let's just see him develop. And if he's a pro, he's a pro. If he's not, he's not. That's okay. I just think that we put too much on Bronny. Like, he has to be, oh, he's only 6'3" and all that, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, he's only 6'3". Okay, so maybe he's a combo guard. Let him develop. Let him develop. And because he has skills. Like, besides the fact of his name, we look at his skills, like some of the things he does with, as a facilitator, and like the bounce he has, that's impressive, regardless of his name. I still think he would be a highly rated prospect, regardless of his name. But obviously, it helps, and we see that in college football with Arch. There's people that say, "Oh, he's only there for his name." Then, like, people are like, "Nah, he's legit. He just happens to have the best resources in the country. He has free resources, that other kids have to pay and all that." And I think that's another factor too in his game, is that he has all this free knowledge. He got all this free game. Like, he got his pops, as like anytime he needs to learn anything, Dad, what's up? All right, let's talk to. Can you? I need help on my shooting. All right, let's go talk to freaking Ray Allen, or I'll help you, or whoever. Like, endless resources are passing. All right, let's go talk to Steve Nash or Jason Kidd. Like, it's just endless resources, and it's all this up here. So, like, maybe the physical stuff is not there yet, but everything up there is there. and that's just as important as what you are physically. So he's going to be able to have that going to. He has so much advantages over so many kids going into the next level that may have the better, more talent, but they don't have that. They don't have the encyclopedia that he has because of all the now. I mean, I'm sure he learned from Kobe. God rest his soul. I mean, just look at all the people. Carmelo, how to be? I want to play iso ball. Go talk to Uncle Melo.
Yeah.
You want to go play. How to get to the basket and get to the free throw line. Go talk to Uncle D Wade. You want to learn passing? Go talk to Uncle CP. You know, when Kobe said, you want to know how to play out the mama style. You want to play that. We want to be able to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning and work. Go talk to him. I mean, that's some stuff people don't mention. That all that stuff they want to talk about just strictly his game and his size, but just let him play, man. Let him be a kid, man. Let him go enjoy college. Let's see how he progresses. I think that's gonna be fun for people, like me and you, to see him progress and all that. We're not gonna be worried. Oh, he's a bum. He's averaging 4 points a game. He can't even play because it's gonna happen, right? Because he's gonna go to Oregon, he's gonna Ohio State. He won't play his freshman year. He'll maybe get a red shirt or he'll play a few minutes a game, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's a bum. He's a bum," and all that. It's gonna happen, right?
With all that, he's on the right track, man. That's all
Yeah.
that matters.
That's all that matters. Like it's crazy how people overanalyze him, but I'm rooting for him, and I think Oregon. I think we both agree Oregon's probably going to be the spot, but it's either Oregon. I don't even know why USC is there. I don't even think. I just think he had needed 3 schools, and he's in California, and USC happens to be in California, but um, I don't think that's. I don't think we think that's going to be a legit option for him. I think it's Oregon, Ohio State, realistically. Um, but I probably say I would lean 65-35 right now, Oregon, but Ohio State has a legit chance to scoop them up. But
I won't
we'll,
lie either, though. I do think USC probably presents the best opportunity to play immediately. If I'm being
yes,
honest, Isaiah Collier is coming in, and they should probably still have a couple other guards. I don't know. Bookie Ellis might be done after this year. Drew Peterson, I don't
Look,
even
yeah,
know.
it's been there for a minute.
He's been there for a couple years now,
I
but he
think
was
he
at
might be
Memphis.
looking for a new school. He's on
Yeah,
school number
so
5 already.
I think Trey White is going to be a hell of a player next year too. Who he's played with
I
before.
just don't trust him, man. I don't trust
Yeah,
USC. They've had too much talent to just be like, it
I
just,
agree.
and I
I'm just
think,
saying from an on-court perspective.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
If he wants to
USC.
play right away,
Yeah,
but maybe Pops is like, hey, you shouldn't play right away. That's maybe not it because
and this
it
is not
sounds
us
good.
saying that Bronny's a bad player. By the way, like
No,
I
no,
like
no,
Bronny a lot. It's just
no, it's definitely not. But sometimes playing right away is not always the right thing,
exactly.
especially in a bad situation. Like it's one
Yep.
thing if you go in a good situation you're playing, but you go into a bad situation, you play right away, things can get messed up. But so I'm sure LeBron's giving him he's
All
getting
the game.
all the information he needs and all. All right, so let's cap it off. Final topic of the night. Let's talk about, as we do every week, our Michigan State Spartans and our Duke Blue Devils. Michigan State had a very good win against Rutgers. I watched that game. It was close for the most part, but Michigan State definitely pulled away Rutgers. We talked about this. We love Rutgers, but man, that offense it's tough. It's tough. It's it's really tough to watch at times, and little concerning at times, but Rutgers is a team we like a lot, and we'll talk about them on the next show because they did some good things in recruiting that I mentioned
Mhm.
earlier. That a few shows back that I'm like, this is why I think, and if they can get a certain recruit that his brother played there and all that, they could be on their way to doing some special things there and be a Big Ten power a few years to come. But we'll talk about that on the next show. But let's talk about Michigan State. Playing, like I said, last show we talked about that. They're playing good ball, continue to play good ball, good win over a ranked team at home. Talk to me about Michigan State and how we feeling about them.
Man, so we're before that Rutgers game, we were coming off a 2-game losing streak. We lost at Illinois, and then we lost at home versus Purdue. And honestly,
That
like
was
I
a
said
good game, man. That was tough. It's a good game
both
though.
of them were. That's what I said
Close
last
game.
episode. Like I wanted us to go 2-1 in that stretch against Purdue, um, Illinois, and Michigan. And we went 1-2, but I'll take it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what happened. And That's what I said, that we played competitive, and that's all I wanted. Like, both those
Exactly.
games went down to the wire.
You
Illinois
could
beat
have
us
easily
because
won that game versus, but Zach Edey is 9 foot tall,
exactly.
so there's
Zach
nothing you
Edey
can do
went
about
he
that.
went ballistic, and
Yeah,
we
yeah,
lost
yeah.
the Illinois game because Matthew Mayer and Coleman Hawkins just woke up and torched us. But for the most part, that game was close, even
Hmm.
with Malik Hall getting hurt towards the end. But regardless, though, I'm happy. Rutgers, like you said, offensively they do struggle, and that was kind of expected when you lose both Ron Harper Jr. and Geo Baker. So I'm
Hmm.
not too surprised by that. But Paul Mulcahy is a hell of a player. Cliff, Big Cliff, I like to call him. I think he's going to win Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Caleb McConnell can guard his butt off. Mag, can do the same thing. He can knock down some shots here and there, but
Hmm.
I'll take it, man. A win is a win right now, especially with Malik Hall. They said at first it was going to be probably for majority of the rest of the season and could close to be season ending, but not quite just season ending just yet. But then, like, a report came out a couple of days ago that it's not as bad as they first thought, and they're just gonna take it day by day. So
Yeah,
we'll see, man. I don't want to rush him back by any means because I'd rather have him in March than right now because
of
that's when he's
course.
going to be most needed. But like I said, I'm always happy with my team, man. Tyson Walker's been playing amazing. Jackson
A-
Kohler finally had a good game versus this Rutgers team.
AJ Hogarth
Um,
too has been really good his last few games.
I know how I feel about him, man. I don't even got to go there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm never mad at my team, man. We doing exactly what I've expected us to do so
No,
far.
yeah, I think like I said, mentioned AJ Hogarth. Like he was playing really good early on, then had a little stretch where wasn't
Yep.
playing so well, but then feels like the last 4 to 5 games feels like he has 15 every game, and that's big for you guys. So
Huge.
that's been really good. And like I said, close losses. I mean that Purdue game. I mean, essentially, there's nothing you can do. Zach Edey had the ball in the post, and it's like, all right, you know, he's
Yep.
7 foot 4. At the end of the day, there's nothing you could do. It doesn't matter, if it was the best center in the country. You ain't
He's a
stopping that
tree.
man. He's a tree. He's nothing you could do.
Literally.
He, he,
Yep.
he he's a giant tree trunk. You can't stop that. There's nothing you
Yep.
can do. Even on watching, I'm like, you see a guy trying, but there's nothing you could do. But the two tough losses, especially that Purdue loss, that could have went either way. So, but you guys are just where you at and right now, and still playing solid ball overall. But like I do like that AJ Hogarth's been hooping for you guys. I think that's big.
Hooping.
He's been playing really good lately for you guys. So that's really good going for you guys forward. And you got Indiana coming up, Iowa, Purdue, rematch of Purdue, Rutgers. So some tough matchups, but obviously you guys, what Indiana team shows up is the biggest question. We don't know. It could look like Indiana from the beginning of the season, or it could look at Indiana, the last, month and a half. We don't know what Indiana team's going to show up. They're so up and down. They could beat
That's
you.
gonna
They
be an
either beat you
interesting
by
game.
15 or they lose by 15.
That's gonna be an interesting game because our post defense has been struggling. I'm not gonna lie. Like, Marty Sissoko's been getting beat up recently,
Yeah.
and Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper are just young. But I think that's also good in the long run too, because when you look at it, like, the Big Ten has a majority of the best big men across the country. On
Hmm.
top of, we played Drew Timmy and Oscar Sheboy to start the season, so we've literally
Yeah.
seen like 99% of the top big men in the country. Or if we haven't seen them, we're gonna see them soon. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I think that bodes well for us, in the coming weeks as March gets closer.
Yep. Yep. You guys are still going to be in good shape going into heading into the rest of Big Ten play. So we'll see how you do. Let's talk about the Duke Blue Devils. Last game we played against Clemson, took a L. Took a L after a couple good wins. We beat Pitt. Pitt was playing good ball, but took a L against Clemson. Just a lot of. It's just essentially what we've been talking about all year with Duke. It's a lot of inconsistencies, and Dariq Whitehead, he had 2 points. You're not winning a game. Dariq Whitehead has 2 points, and he's kind of been someone that we've been like, we're waiting, and it seemed like it was coming. There was a stretcher ball where he was playing where I was like, okay, this is Dariq Whitehead. He feels confident. He seems like he's got his bounce back, 1 foot, 2 foot. Everything looks good. Shot making abilities there, and then took a step back in this game. Just didn't look good. Didn't get a shot off and all that, and just this team just couldn't figure it out. Therese Proctor looked good. Posky looked good, but everyone else, for the most part, relatively disappointing and all that. And defense, I mean, um, who's guy that went off? Hall just went ballistic on us. just making everything almost at
PJ
30, I
Hall is
think.
nice.
Yeah. He almost went off on us.
Clemson's good, man. Hunter
Clemson's
Tyson,
and
Chase Hunter, they got players.
and it always seems like, even no matter how good this Duke team is, it always seems like they lose to Clemson, every other year at Clemson. It always seems like it feels like that happens. But still, I think that same feeling I've had every time I talk about them. It's the same feeling. I feel like they're gonna be. This is what we're gonna be. This is what we're gonna be.
Yeah.
This is who we are. Maybe Derek, and like you said, you mentioned maybe Derek just isn't as good as we thought. That could be the case. And like I said, it seems like it's if it's not Filipowski do anything. I mean, if he didn't have almost, I think he had 20 or 19 in this game. If he didn't do anything, we might have just got absolutely, blown out the gym and all that. Like kind of like who we did against who we played, who we lost by like 30.
NC State.
NC State absolutely embarrassed us. Trevion had
too, though.
So
Jarkel Joyner, they got a good team. Casey
yeah. So I just think this team is just gonna be hot and cold. There's gonna be games where we look like Duke, and there's gonna be games where we look like an amateur team. And I just think that's what's gonna happen. So nothing really much changed as far as what I'm feeling. I feel the same way. I feel like how I felt. It's gonna be up and down. It's because Lively has not been what we thought. I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back. I still think if he does decide to come out, I still think strictly off physical tools, I think he could be someone that kind of like Mitchell Robinson, I kind of in that way, like super raw, but like even the Knicks developed Mitchell Robinson into a solid player. Like someone second round could do that, but I hope he stays another year. I really do, because he needs a lot of seasoning. And but yeah, any thoughts on Duke and just I don't know. This is a weird team, man. It's like I know I have to give him like a curve, because obviously there's no Coach K there, and it's going to be a different type of team, and you gotta let you gotta let Shire do his thing, and but just give me your thoughts on Duke so far.
Yeah, I'll give you one good thing and one bad thing, and I'll start with the bad thing. The bad thing you kind of already hit on was that you can't really afford for Ryan Young to be outplaying Derek Lively.
That's crazy.
Honest,
Ryan Young, and at this point, even if you don't want Ryan Young to be that, you can't take him all, because he gets you buckets. He gets you. Derek Lively does not get you anything. If it's not a oop or transition, he's not doing anything. And obviously, I think there's more to his game. Like there's some outside shooting that we saw in high school there. Maybe they just a level. And I don't know if that's something we will ever see from him, but I think there's more there. It just doesn't feel like he's there yet, as a player confident. But like Ryan Young's out playing, like that was not supposed to be in the cards. It was Lively, he was supposed to be the guy. And Derek Lively's not playing a lot of minutes now. Like he's an afterthought. Ryan Young's the big come off the bench, and it's surprising.
And I'll say the good thing is that Tyrese Proctor has been finding his footing slowly but surely. He hasn't been amazing, which I'm not expecting him to be amazing. But again, I just think his scoring presence could open up a lot of things. Because my biggest thing with Duke that I haven't said, but is that coming into the season, I thought it was going to be too much pressure on Jeremy Roach. And I thought if you guys would have gotten Trevor Keels back, it would have made everything a lot more smoother, because
Jeremy Roach he's going to come back too, man. I thought Keels would come back to be a first-round pick.
And exactly. And Jeremy Roach is a good player. It's just that when you're playing with a team that's so young, you don't want your point guard to be both the facilitator and the lead scorer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an issue. And so as a facilitator, I think he's amazing. And probably as like a secondary scorer, amazing. He was like that for last year. He was your guys' clutch player after Paulo last year. So it's like he's good, but you don't want to put everything on him. But luckily, Kyle's been good. Tyrese is starting to find his footing.
Mark Mitchell's been solid.
Or Mitchell's solid. So the team is good. You guys are a good team.
Yeah.
It's just about growing up and maturing, man. That's all it comes down to.
So young.
But it's tough too, because again, Shire's a first-year coach.
Exactly. Everyone's young. Everyone's young in this. Like it's not just like the team is maybe the youngest Duke team that I could remember. Just not a lot of, and also like even the transfers like Jacob Grant, he's been a disappointment. Like he can't do
Man,
nothing,
I
man.
try to tell Duke fans they don't listen to me though.
I thought he was going to come in and bring that veteran leadership that we needed, especially at the guard spot. And he's been awful. He had one good game, I think, is his Bellamy, and I was like, that was it. Like he's been
Yeah.
under like 10 point, like under like 6 points for like every game. Like he's shooting like 25% like from three. Like he's been a disappointment. I thought he'd be a upgrade for a very young team, and I think that's why they brought him in for that reason because they were so young and they needed some type of veteran leash. But he's been absolutely abysmal this year. But this is so young. Like you got a young team with a first year head coach is he's trying to figure his thing out and all that. So it goes hand in hand. I expected it. I still think, except like you said, I think we are a good team. I just think people were just not used to it. Even as college
Mhm.
basketball fans, you're not used to Duke just being so young and sometimes looking outmatched. It's very rare you see sometimes Duke looking very outmatched. Like the NC State game was probably like, hold up, I don't remember Duke ever getting losing by like 30. Like it's just that's rare. You don't see that from a Duke team. Like obviously we've lost double digits before, but where you look absolutely outmatched and it's like, okay, but young team, young coach. I think it'll be all right. I think we got Miami coming up
Phew.
um this weekend.
At
That
home.
should be good. A lot of good games. Okay, a lot of good games on the slate. Give me a couple games that you're looking forward to.
Man, I'm definitely looking forward to, I believe, what is that? Kansas TCU. Alabama's at Missouri, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a couple other ones. Let me check right here. That Saturdays always give us good games, but I'm looking at it. Yeah, Mrs. Ole Miss is at Arkansas. I'm probably gonna take Arkansas. Has been reeling, but I'll take Arkansas in that game. Oh, that's the main one. UCLA, Arizona.
UCLA,
That's
Arizona.
gonna be that should be a good one, man. I'm looking forward to that a lot. But yeah, TCU is at Kansas, but UCLA, Arizona, man. UCLA, they snuck out a tough win. What was that last night, 2 nights ago at Arizona State, where they were trailing for a good part of the second half, came back. I think they were down like 10 at a point, came back and won it. And Jaime Jaquez and Tyler Campbell just made plays after play after play. So that's another team, man. UCLA, they are a sleeper national championship contending team. I'm
We're gonna
telling you.
talk about them next show because we haven't really talked too much
Yep.
UCLA since beginning of the show stages, but we definitely talk more Pac-12 and all that. We got to show them some love. But yeah, it's some good games. We definitely got some sort of Kansas TCU, like you mentioned. Um,
Texas
Iowa
Tech,
State.
Kansas
Yeah,
State too. Yep.
yeah. Big 12 got some good matchups. Like I said, UCLA versus Kansas, right? I mean, not Kansas.
Yep. Arizona.
Arizona.
Yep.
Let's see, we got in Big Ten. No great matchups in the Big Ten. But yeah, nice slate of games. Um, let's see what else we got. Any
Virginia
other
Tech
big
is
match?
at Clemson.
Virginia Tech at Clemson. Alabama's going to Missouri.
Yep.
Um, Alabama has some things going on there.
Texas at West Virginia. Man,
Texas.
I don't even.
Gonzaga just lost their first home, and that's something I didn't mention. Gonzaga lost their first home game in like 85, something like that, something crazy. To who they lose to? Loyola Marymount, was that?
Yep.
Yeah, they
Cam
lost.
Felton, Chino Hills legend, man.
Yeah. Very, very. That's been impressive on them. So the win streak, the home win streak's over for them. But yeah, a lot of good games. Great slate of college basketball as always. And as always, Kev, pleasure talking to you about everything going on in the world of college basketball and recruiting.
Yes, sir, man. Again, appreciate you, man. Shout out to Off the Ball Network as always. Y'all stay tapped in with us. We appreciate you guys, all the love, and we're gonna keep doing it, man. The season's been great. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Conference play has been amazing so far.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I also say too, real quick, RP to Jamia Harris, because that Darius Miles situation is super tragic. A young kid lost his mother for the rest of his life over some stupid stuff, and that's just a terrible situation, man. I didn't want to take it there, but it had to be said, man. But
Crazy.
y'all already know, man. Appreciate y'all for tapping in every week for sure.
Yeah. Crazy situation. That's very, very unfortunate. It's just it's wild. It's wild. And then it was crazy because a lot of people thought it was the other Darius Miles. I remember
Man,
people in the mentions like, "Yo, how can you do this?" And like, I'm sure
insane.
he was like, "What did I do?" Like craziness. And like, I wonder when something like that happens, like, and they're having such a great season. Like everything's going right for them. Their potential number one seed, you know, Brandon Miller's maybe a player of the year candidate, and then you have this happen. Like, how does that affect the team and all that? So,
Tragic, man. Yeah,
it
RP Jamia Harris, man.
yeah,
Tragic.
yeah, it's a sad situation. Prayers to all involved in that
Definitely.
situation and all that, and hopefully, yeah, sad situation. But that concludes episode 11, Get a Bucket podcast with me, your host Chris, my guy Kev. We appreciate everyone who tapped into this show. Um, got into a lot of things. We talked about the Mike Brey situation with Notre Dame and seeing, potential candidates. Chris Quinn, maybe, former Notre Dame legend there. Will he do? We talked about the Big 12, talked about Bronny James and his top three options. Was he going to go to Oregon, Ohio State, USC? Talked about, Creighton and all that, and UConn and the situations and all that. But like I said, it is thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of Get a Bucket podcast. Be well, be safe, take care. Peace
Peace.
out.